Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Ben from the PB and Gainz podcast. Today, you are listening to episode 7. We are really pumped about this one. It is owner of Avenue Fitness, Brent Gallagher, writer, speaker, fitness man, leadership extraordinaire. We have a pretty good message today. We're talking about how to redefine your workouts, how to make them more exciting, doing it through the simple thing of looking through a childlike filter. So playing, getting outside, doing things a little bit differently. We're also going to touch on legacy, what legacy really means, and then how to craft the one that you'll be proud of at the end of your life, And then we're also going to have some really exciting James Lipton and Harry Carey questions for Brent. So that is today. Also, turn the speakers up a little bit. The sound quality is just a little bit low. The volume is a little bit off, so just turn those speakers up and the volume up. And then I'll leave you here with a quote. Play is the work of the child by Maria Montessori. So that's today. Here we go, guys.
And here we go.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time.
What is up, everybody? This is the PB and Gainz podcast, episode 7. Today we are sitting down with Brent Gallagher, who I would refer to him as a boss, but he'd get really upset about that, so I will not do that. He's the guy that owns this company that we are at Avenue Fitness. So, oh shoot. We're back on air. This is live stuff. Okay, so episode 7, Brent Gallagher, Avenue Fitness. He's our co-worker. And so I've been here for a few years. I think most of us about 3 to 4. You've been here for
A long time. Almost 10.
Almost 10. So, kind of starting this culture of 30-minute time-saving fitness and health ideas, you were kind of the brainchild behind it. Fact?
Yes.
Okay. So today's episode might be a little bit lighthearted, but there will be good lessons. We kind of want to start out with some good questions to get your brain thinking in a creative manner. From James Lipton. What sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise do I love?
Yes. Is that the sound? It's wolf. He just got a dog, so that makes sense. What's your favorite word?
Simple.
Simple. That's a good one. All right. And then in James Lipton manner, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done.
That was easy. That was quick. And then David has a
We have one question from Harry Carey. Hey, if you were a hot dog and starving, would you eat yourself?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, it's easy. Okay.
All right.
He'd starve to death.
You can cut that out. We're going to end it there on that high note. All right. So that was just trying to diffuse the situation to start it off. So, all right. So I will let you introduce yourself in a much more detailed manner than I would. So have at it. The Brent Gallagher story begins now.
Well, like this podcast started, through a few little stumbles, I pretty much have the same kind of journey here when I look at this to leading this organization, which I think sums it up best. From the beginning, kind of getting into the fitness side of things, I spent years after finished up kind of playing soccer in college of destroying my body, thinking that the key to being fit, healthy, and quite frankly to have a ripped up body like every other 22-year-old guy that looks at muscle magazines wants. I thought more was the way to do it, and so I thought, you know what, on top of working out for an hour and a half a day, I was going to run marathons as well. And so I spent the next 4 years basically just treading down this path into a very deep, dark, depressive state of life. And when I kind of hit rock bottom when I was about 25, sitting inside an internist's office trying to figure out why I had bleeding ulcers, she came back in and kind of basically hit me over the head with her wisdom and knowledge about I was doing too much, and I was taking down this stupid path in life of trying to keep up with everybody else. I need to rethink what I was doing. And like I said, it was a good wake-up call after that, which was almost perfect timing for me to open up the gym here, Avenue Fitness, in January 2006. So we are coming up literally almost on 10 years of it all. And from the days that I opened up the gym initially in the beginning, I knew there was a better way of working out. I knew there was a better way of trying to live fit and healthy. And it involved sleeping more, it involved eating better, it involved actually training a little bit less. But at the time, it wasn't a cool, it wasn't a hip, it wasn't a sexy thing to talk about. So it took a few years of trying to bring on other teammates, which was easy. My wife came on board a few months after we had started, who believed in the mindset as well, and we started kind of slowly gaining some momentum. And we pushed forward with this 30-minute mindset, my favorite word, the simplicity of things, of trying to help people understand as opposed to banging your head up against the wall, living stressed out from day to day, that there was a simpler approach to it all, and it actually involved doing a little bit less work in the gym, a little less, I think, stressing over how do we fit it all into our day. You know, as we grow in our families, you have kids, you have work, you have all this responsibility, and you just don't quite understand of how do you fit it in? So we try to tackle this simple message of if we start cleaning up our food and if we start to sleep more, the training will pretty much take care of itself. You actually have to do less. And so that started the journey, again, like I said, about 10 years ago. And just over the years, we've brought on great teammates, well, I say that lightly, like yourselves and David and Derek. And we brought on more and more people who have slowly started to believe in this mindset that there is a better way to do it. And I think something right now with the path that we're on here at the gym, that we're really starting to understand that what we have here is something that's unique. It's something that our community has embraced. And I think they're really starting to see the value of us giving their time back and us helping them be able to fit training and fit healthy food into their day-to-day life. So that kind of brings us up here to where we're at here today with speaking with y'all on this podcast. And
This podcast of excellence.
This podcast of excellence.
Now, I think when you coming at it from our point of view, when we start telling people like, "Hey, we're going to work out less," and you tell people that from a training standpoint, they look at you like, "All right, what's the catch? Like, what are you trying to sell me on the back end of everything?" And really, I guess it's not really selling you on the back end. It's kind of giving you a gift of more time. That extra 30 minutes, you can do a lot in 30 minutes. So I think that plays a huge role. And so what obstacles right off the bat did you face when people would come in? You told them, we're cutting your training time in half.
Yeah, literally the biggest obstacle was that no one was doing it. And everybody from on TV to magazines to your friends, everybody thought more and more and more is the best way to do it, because that's how most of us get ahead at the office, is that we're willing to put in the long hours. We're willing to put in all-nighters, work on the weekends, and respond to emails at any time of day, regardless if it comes in at 2:30 in the morning or 2:30 in the afternoon. But now what we're trying to, I think what we've seen over the years, that time is like the most valuable commodity that we have right now. It's the number one asset that everybody has. And to the extent that you value your time, you start to realize that there's better ways to invest it, and then there's crap ways to spend it. But at the end of the day, we can waste it, we can spend it, we can invest it, but we'll never get it back. So I think people are starting to finally wisen up to say that we waste a lot of time in our own life. And with these 30-minute sessions, again, people were like, nobody's talking about this, nobody's doing 30-minute sessions yet. And super quick nerdy stuff, all the research that we have out there that basically explains 60 minutes is the best way to do things are done on college kids, 18 to 22 years of age, male and female, and you're like, who has more time than anybody else out there to invest 60 minutes of their life, because they have nothing else to do. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'll go take a nap in the middle of the day, because they'll skip class to take a nap. But I think as we look back and go, our industry's been built around all of this research that was done on college kids, and it was great for college, but now in the real life, with family, with work, and other responsibilities, you're like, we're not slowing down. We're not slowing down at all. 5 years ago, you were busy. Today, you're even busier, and where do you think you're going to be at in 5 years from now?
That's a rhetorical question. I was about to answer that. I was actually watching Shark Tank this past Friday, and Mark Cuban said that exact thing. Like, time is your most valuable commodity. And so Mark Cuban obviously is a very valuable commodity, and he understands it. So it's kind of parlaying that into making sure that we understand that same template, that saving time, making your time more efficient is a big deal. So I think that's, obviously when you throw in cutting someone's workout time in half, they're going to kind of rebel against it. But there's so much more in the long run that they gain from there. That's one thing to keep in mind. I think, we talked about the why, the 30 minutes, and the importance of it, and the fight and the rebellion you might get back against that. I think it's also important to look at the how we spend that time, how we spend that 30 minutes. A lot of times, people look at, they have to have the 3 sets of 10 rep type workouts, bench press, squats, and while those do hold their place of importance, I think that there's a cool way that we can redefine how you work out, and that's through play. And I know you're a big advocate of playing. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we look at it and say that when we really start to get bogged down by the details of the workouts, you and I both are a little bit more of a big picture thinker, so this might frustrate some of you that like to think about details. I need to be told what to do. I need to follow X, Y, and Z steps as I go through a workout. But at the end of the day, you're really just splitting hairs. You're not really taking in the bigger perspective of this whole thing that we're talking about of movement. I like to talk about with my girls, when they come up, they're growing up gym rats, basically. So they come up here, hang out at the gym a lot, whether it's after school or on the weekends, and we just tell them that this is an adult playground. And sometimes they ask, why don't they just go play across the street at the playground? And to that we have to say that mommies and daddies tend to forget as they get older how to play, because we don't do it as much anymore. But really, if you think about what we're doing, it is just an adult version of play. And a lot of people look at it as drudgery. They look at it as it's something that they can't stand to do. They hate going to the gym. But I think sometimes it's just that perception that comes with working out. You think Biggest Loser on TV, people screaming at you. You think so sore the next day. Your legs are buckling underneath you when you walk down the stairs. You think that it has to be a lot of pain to get that gain from it all.
It's intimidating.
It is intimidating. It is so. But we'd like to say is that if you almost redefine, looking at your workout as more of a playtime, there's almost this flashback to PE, to recess, to time that you got to hang out with your friends, where you just ran and jumped, and there was no real structure to what you did. As soon as you got tired of something, you just kind of moved on. You transitioned into the next phase of whatever you were going to do. You played some tag, you ran up and down on the playground equipment, you might have gone and kind of like, played off a small little pickup game on the side, but within the space of, within the time frame of 30 minutes, you had probably done about 15, 20 different things. But now when we get into the gym, it has to be so structured that, from 0 to 5 minutes we do this, from 10 to 15 we do this, and it must hit 3 sets of 8, and if we don't get to the last set, we feel like we're failures. And so, again, I think it's just a matter of going, are we trying to really split hairs with this, or are we actually looking at the overall big picture and just saying that it is more just a playtime? When we redefine it, we redefine success for ourselves versus what society might say that we have to do. When you, I think, have the courage and the boldness and even the vulnerability to step up and say, I'm going to look at this as a playtime for myself. You start to enjoy it more, and then you also start to be able just to kind of go with the flow and say, today I would love to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. You don't get so bogged down on the details of it all.
So what would be some maybe examples of play that you would do, even ways of getting your kids involved as well, your daughters?
I think it's simple. It's just going out there in the back and moving around with them. We had a great event this past weekend. We had the Wounded Warrior Project, who we hosted an event for them. Did a lot of health and fitness cooking demonstrations here in our teaching kitchen, which is one of the unique pieces that Ben's really kind of brought to life for us. But we brought in chefs, we brought in people who were going to talk about living fit through being able to prepare healthier foods, and kind of I had a chance along with a couple of others here to talk about staying fit. And we took them through some demonstrations of it all. We said simple games like tag with your kids. When your kids, especially if you have young ones like mine, of 3 and 6 year olds, all they want to do is go out and play. They all they want to rather bike around in circle about for 3 hours. All you have to do is just chase them down, run up, touch them, come run away, run up, touch them, pick them up, put them on your back, go walking across the backyard.
Make sure it's your kid.
Make sure it's your kid.
Gotta get the right one.
Or if you're looking for some sprints to do, you might pick up the wrong kid and try to run as fast as you possibly can. So I think it's just getting back into their mindset. Like, sit there with that childlike wonderment and just go, what's it like to just get back into their shoes again and just explore movement? It's not childish, it's childlike. And that childlike mindset of just sitting there and watching and appreciating movement when it comes to the fact that, our knees might hurt and we can't jump and roll as fast as they do, but we can get close to imitating with them, and we can get back into this, this play set, play mindset, and just, again, like I said, explore stuff. If you have older kids, it might be going out and running routes with your son, maybe throwing a football or something like that. If it's your daughter, it might be, taking playing softball or some. If they don't like doing any of that stuff, go find something else at a playground. Go out and just explore. Go for a walk. Go for a run. Go for some sprints. But don't let your own kind of like limited thinking. Ask them to get involved in the process. Hey, what would you like to go do? And again, it kind of lets everybody collaborate together with this.
I guess if it's not fun for either of you, then it's not play.
No,
keep it fun.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's part of the definition of play. I mean, you have to have fun. You have to enjoy what it is you're doing. I mean, I think back to when we were doing boot camps here, probably the most successful and most fun things we did was when we played games to end the day. I mean, it was either ultimate frisbee, if it was like a bear crawl soccer game. It was something that was different and it was fun and it was just a good time. And it was, granted, you did have those people that were just diving on concrete, trying to catch a frisbee, and it got a little intense. But it's a little Neosporin, fix that up. And I think too, we're in this culture of like safety and limiting creativity. And I think most people, when you're sitting at a desk all day and all you do is type numbers in, you press the same buttons, and you do the same thing every single day, your creative outlet is completely squashed. And so, look to your kids if you have them. Look to your friends who have kids, or look to that guy that you thought acts like a child, and see what they're doing, because there's definitely good ideas out there. You just have to be open-minded enough to go after them. I think that's a huge thing. So, kind of pushing your kids around, like Brent said, is huge. Chasing some random kids down the street, that might light your fire, whatever. I'm gonna bring this up. You had this formula, I guess we'll call it, in your bestseller. Imagination plus perspiration equals inspiration. And so you're kind of going through that. Talk us through that formula and how it has to do with play.
I think the first part you look at is the perspiration side of it all. If you can sit there and you can watch your kids, your imagination can begin to start to run wild here. But as soon as you start moving around, as soon as something as simple as if you're standing up in a big group of people and music comes on, everybody starts kind of generally moving just a little bit. There's something about movement that happens to kind of get the brain working in different ways. And you think about, like, when you're a kid, you have this wild, crazy imagination that you could be anything, you could create anything, and you think almost like, what's something in common? What do all kids have in common? And that's that point that they're moving on a day-to-day basis. They're breaking a sweat every day at recess from 3 to 3:15, or PE might come every other day or every other week or something, but for the most part, they are getting out there, they're getting moving. And through all that, they find this sense of childlike, inspiration to develop things and to create things and to become things that never thought was possible before. But I think from that, you use that to look at how we start to view our workouts. If we really want to kind of get bogged down in the details of it all. Again, some of us might get hung up on that word. It has to be called a workout to feel like it's manly enough to check the box. You don't really feel comfortable telling your friends that you're going out to go play. You might feel comfortable telling them to work out, but it goes back into the imagination aspect of it all, is that the more that we're moving, the more that the brain fires off, the more that the body enjoys that, and the more that that the blood starts flowing through the body, you get these crazy wild ideas. And that's why some of you, if you've been out on a run or in the middle of a quote unquote workout, you might get this off the wall idea that you're going to start a business, or you might say that, oh, you need to go talk to somebody about this one thing that just popped into your head, and there's something that from the movement sparks that imagination, because there's just enough blood flow, there's enough oxygen to the body that gives you that inspiration to be able to go out and tackle things in different ways, unique ways.
Yeah, I think it kind of plays into this idea that I heard on Joe Rogan's podcast, where he talks about we all have this inner monkey, and that's like if you see some of their company stuff, it's their spirit animal, I guess, is this gorilla or chimp or monkey, and it's talking about that movement kind of releases that thing inside of us that gets us motivated, gets the creativity going, and it lets us just kind of be simple enough to get complex, if that makes any sense in itself. And so kind of you talk about, you have these moments of clarity that you might get from playing or working out, or whatever it is, and you think about like what might come from these ideas and what might be the grandeur that is, and it kind of brings us into legacy. And so you look at obviously we talk about kids, and our kids are watching us as role models. I mean, my daughter is learning to wink right now because I'm winking at her. So like there's things that they're always watching us, and so brings to mind, how do we define legacy? And I know that's a big thing for you. So how do you define legacy?
Legacy is just simply the lasting impression that you leave upon someone. I think we get sometimes confused with this fact that legacy is something that we change the world. But I think when you boil it back down, this is changing the world for the people that are in your lives immediately. Grandfather was a perfect example that from everything that we did up until the point of him passing literally changed my life. Yeah, it is the reason why I'm standing here today. It's the reason why I opened this business. It's the reason why we run the business the way that we do, is all because of him. And I look and say that though his legacy did not change the world, it changed me. And he's forever now something that I even speak about with my own daughters, and tell him about, or tell them, both of them, about the life that he lived, the way that he thought just a little bit differently. He tried to take things, even for his time, an old school method, and kind of develop those, I think, talents and skills within me, and he challenged me to always step out and try something different, to blaze kind of quote unquote my own path through this industry. And so I think when we think legacy, you can always think of a parent, you can always think of a grandparent who really made an impact on your life. And as you look to your own kids, and you look to those that may be around you on a team or in a service type of manner, that you go, what are the things I can do to start, just like what you said, that wink, whatever. If that's something that she grows up in the future, and it's always something between just the two of you, that's leaving a little bit of a legacy with her. With my daughters right now, since we're always up so early in the morning, my thing with them is to always take them outside and look at the stars. And I want to leave that impression with them, that there's always this healthy bit of comfort if they're when they grow up and they might have kids of their own and they have families and lives of their own, that they can walk out there, take a step, look up, and be reminded of the comfort that they had when it was just the two of us at that point. During the daytime, it's always looking up to the clouds and trying to pick out pictures and stuff. So I want to create for them that sense of, hey, there's someone who's always out there who's thinking of me. There's the day-to-day lessons that we're trying to instill with them, the leadership and being courageous in their own lives. But it's one of those small little things, and that's legacy. I think too, it's fullest to say that what's that lasting impression that someone, even after you've passed and you're gone, that they're always going to remember. But then we'll challenge them to say, I'm gonna do this one small little thing with my child or with one other person to leave a lasting impression on them. Same thing, my grandfather left one small impression with me. I'm trying to do the same thing with my daughters, that hopefully one day they would do for someone else.
I think it kind of plays into this imagery we were talking about earlier with the Wounded Warrior Project thing, is the pebble that creates the ripple effect. And so I mean, it's there's so much that I think people don't realize that you might impact because you don't see it. I know that sometimes that I've fallen into, and I don't really see that, and I guess no one really sees it, but you do leave that impression on someone's life that then they can go forward and change the lives of other people.
But I think right there, something what you said is that sometimes you don't see it, but if you were intentional about it, you will see it.
True.
Because a lot of us will just get to the end, and then we're just like, I hope something happened. I hope somebody remembers me. I hope somebody shows up. When all is said and done. But I think if you are intentional, if you start now, whether you're in your 20s and 30s or if you're up in your 50s and 60s, it doesn't matter where you're starting at this. If you start becoming intentional each and every single day, you do see it. You do see that playing out, you can have those conversations if your kids become older and they call you up and they just want to talk about that one little connection between the two of you. Or if they're young, in my case, and they're not fully understanding it yet, but you're setting that course to say that when they wake up, they're like, hey, Dad, can I go outside and look at the stars? That's something that's instilled into their mindset that will forever be with them.
No, that's huge. Intentionality is big. I mean, that goes with anything. Anything you do is being intentional. Sure, some things will just happen by either dumb luck or not dumb luck, if it's Gary Vaynerchuk. But if it's like something in it to where things will just happen, but if you are intentional, they have a much better chance of happening. And then, like how you just mentioned, you get the chance to see these things play out, as opposed to getting at the very end and just being like, well, I hope that worked, and kind of seeing that through. So I think that was the next question we ask was, how do you leave the legacy? And it seems to be like the intentionality is key. Any other tips?
No, I think it's the daily steps that you take. You can either end up at the end, and wish that you had taken these steps, or you can just start taking the steps today. They're not perfect steps, but it is something that just each and every day. Are there days that I screw it all up for my daughters? Yes. I mean, it's an imperfect person. But I think overall, when you look at it, if you're keeping yourself fit, if you're keeping yourself healthy, you can actually accomplish this just a little bit better. It's not waking up thinking about your poor health or how hard it is to get up out of bed or how hard it is just to kind of get up and go moving around with your kids. The more steps you start taking to live in that fit and healthy rhythm of life, it's easier to say, I want to go instill this in my own kids, or with a spouse, or on the journey that you're on around the people that you're with on a day-to-day basis. You can inspire them just surely through your actions. And that's what they say. I think ultimately leadership is just leading by example. And we're all, at the end of the day, we're all leaders leading someone else who's just watching us.
Yeah, and you kind of threw it in there. So it's like being fit and healthy can obviously lead you to do this stuff better, to be more intentional. Because if you are active, you do get that one idea, or you get that one thing that pops in your head, or you do have more energy. And like I said, you're not having to worry about, I feel like crap. Will my back be able to handle this? Will I be able to have enough energy to play with my kids? If you just take those small little steps intentionally to eat better, to move a little bit more, to play, it kind of takes care of itself. And the dominoes will fall as they may, and it might work out in your favor because you've been intentional about it. So I think being fit and healthy, like you just kind of mentioned there, is obviously another key aspect to leaving that legacy. Which kind of takes us into this last little part of the podcast. We're going to talk about the regrets of the dying, and that people always lay there on that deathbed and they're like, "What if? What if I had done this? What if I hadn't have done this?" I know this is how you end your talks when you go present, is those "what if" questions, and it's kind of like, why do those "what if" questions resonate so well with you?
It's always such a great way to end it, but very morbid.
Yeah, we're talking dying. Yeah, enjoy your breakfast.
Wow, I'm sure everybody. We start off with a hiccup. We're going to end with a hiccup at the end of it. What if is just this unique question that you get up every single day and you have the ability to ask. What if today I take one step to the left, or if I take one step to the right? If I can continue down the same path I've always been traveling, or if I just one day you take one step slightly off to the side, and then every single day you continuously keep taking that one little side step. What you're talking about there, the regrets of the dying, it's a story from a lady named Brene Brown. She studied thousands of people in hospice care and asked them, said, "What's your number one regret?" Most people feel or would think that the number one regret is wish they hadn't worked so much, but it's actually number two. The number one regret, it kind of comes back into this, that they wish that they had lived a life that was true to themselves versus living a life what was true to society and what everybody else thought. Now, when you think about that, when you step back now to where you're at, and if you look ahead, you go, am I going to continue just following the path that everybody else follows? Am I going to continue the path of just being average? Or am I going to try to be anything but average? Am I going to try to take this one step today? And it doesn't matter where you're at, where you're starting. It's just one small step in a different direction will lead you, as long as you're consistently taking those steps over and over and over. So we ask you here, those of you listening, to say, what if? What if it's something that you just started trying to play more for 30 minutes a day? If you haven't done nothing, start for 10 minutes. Go 15, go to 20, go to 25, go to 30. But don't look to go more than 30. But that's one of those things. What if you did this? What changes could you make in your own life? What if you started to adapt just a simpler eating plan versus just stopping through the fast food delis and the convenience stores and stuff like that? But you keep asking that question. It's a great question, especially when you start asking it with that legacy aspect in mind, with that that big picture thinking that some of us are great at it. Some of us may go, you know what, I can't think past today. I can't think back past the end of the week. But when we do some self kind of reflection, when we look at it and say, like, most of the great things that we've accomplished in our life usually came from us stepping back, saying, what if? What if I did this? If you're married, you said, what if I asked her to marry me? And that's the easiest thing to do. Even if you think she's a guaranteed yes, you still get nervous because you go, she might say no. She might not want to do it.
Mine was a lock. I knew it.
Yeah, but those are the things you go, if we keep asking this what if every single day that you wake up, you just say what if. And it might be perfect days where you ask it and days that you don't, but
You're being intentional in asking the what if question. That was good. That was a good way to kind of tie it all back in.
yeah, so don't say anything after this.
I know, and so we're done. Oh no. One way we do end this podcast is there's that one takeaway. We call it that one gain. So if you could out of everything you came up with today, all the ideas, like what would you like people to gain this one thing from today's lesson?
Time's your most valuable asset. At as soon as you can begin to wrap your mind around that, all of a sudden the time that you spend on Facebook surfing around, I don't have time to work out today, but then when you go, you know what, I got in the car, I sat in the car for 5 minutes before I actually started it. Once I started the car, I looked for about another 2-3 minutes before I put it in reverse. I pulled up where I was at, and I spent another 10 minutes on the phone before I actually turned the car off, got out, walked to the place I was going, or I was stumbling around on it while I was sitting there waiting to pick up my kids. Like, you begin to understand where we waste time. We waste time on looking at people's filtered lives. So I think those are those things we go, really, do we need to invest our time here, or can we invest it a little bit more wisely?
Are we calling out some clients on this?
Are we calling out clients? I didn't call out a client, so you might have.
Yeah.
No, and I guess most important question is, what did you think of David's Harry Carey impersonation? It was pretty bad.
That was a bad way to start the day. Sometimes even for me,
I thought it was good.
I was like, wow, man. But he was bold enough, he was brave enough to even attempt it.
He's gearing up for his improv.
Yeah. Thousands upon thousands of people that will download this.
Millions.
Yeah, millions, I'm sorry.
And we're being intentional.
Right.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap that bad boy up. And so thank you for listening and taking the time. You have one question?
I'm good.
We're good with Harry Carey impersonations. Just think about, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being intentional and giving us some of your time. Go out and play. And, our quote was, play is the work of the child. It's, look at things with that childlike view and just be intentional in what you do every single day and ask those what-if questions. So check us out at avenuefit.com. There is no E in Avenue. The PB and Gainz podcast, download it on iTunes, Stitcher, or whoever sent you this link to listen to it. Thank you for listening. And then last question is, if the moon were made of barbecue spare ribs, would you eat it? Have a good one.